58 degrees Fahrenheit this morning in Naples, Florida. As the great Matt Fury said the other day, the coming of the Southwest Florida Ice Age. I was in Dunkin' Donuts yesterday getting my coffee, and the people in front of me had bomber ski jackets on with the Canadian toques, the hats. Oh my God, the gloves out walking the dog, the little poodle. I love it. I love it. I'm from Canada. I've walked in minus 40 degrees Celsius. I've shot videos where this gimbal and broken iPhone quit after 20 seconds. Just gave up and quit, and I had to shoot the videos in by the Christmas tree. I have walked in freezing rain, snow, it's just insane. And I don't know how many bomber jackets I even ever wore. When I'm walking, you're moving. My dad tells that amazing story of global cooling, right? My dad's 89 years old, so he gives perspective to everything. He's like Michael with anti-social media. You would think everything's new, right? Everything's new. Oh my God, Russia and Ukraine, so new. Creepy Joe Biden, oh my God, first time ever. Shortage of supplies, first time ever. Crippling inflation, we've never dealt with this before. And it's all just bullshit. It's just history repeats itself. Human beings are hardwired to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. We're hardwired. History does repeat itself. So it's just amazing when you get that perspective from somebody like my dad, who's had almost 90 years on this planet as an entrepreneur. And he said to me, he always reminds me of that Time magazine front page article of global cooling, where Time magazine at the time was a respected publication. And here's this article of polar bears going to soon be roaming the streets of New York City. That if we don't spend billions of dollars, trillions of dollars, then we're coming into a new ice age. 1970, acid rain, Jimmy Carter, gas lines, double-digit inflation, war in the Middle East, on and on. And my dad's like, yep, global cooling was the big thing. If we don't change the way we live, if we don't build new cars, if we don't, we're all gonna freeze to death. Polar bears in New York City. So it just shows you the importance, and this is what I preach above all else, is think for yourself. If nothing else, be an independent thinker. Like, constantly say to yourself when it comes to any topic on earth now, does that make sense? What does my golden gut say about that? What does my intuition tell me about that? Does that make sense? And then think independently. Teach your children to think for themselves. They're growing up in a school system where they have to raise their hand and ask for permission to take a piss. Do you think that that's raising a renegade, a maverick, a contrarian? No, that's raising poodles. That's raising, cowards. That's raising slaves, mental slaves. So everything we have to fight and go against the grain. As the great Uncle Nightingale told us, Uncle Earl, just look around at what everybody else is doing and do the exact opposite. You'll never make another mistake in your life. I owe my life to Uncle Earl. Uncle Earl Nightingale, the godfather of personal development. When I read that the first time 20 years ago, it was mind-breaking. It was mind-expanding. I was like, boom. Look around at what everybody else is doing and then do the exact opposite. And if you do that, you'll never make another mistake in your life. The great Uncle Earl Nightingale, the godfather of personal development. He was just like, He's like, if you don't have any role models, you don't have any examples like my dad, if you don't have anybody to tell you what to do, just look around at what the majority is doing, the herd, the quiet desperation crowd, and just simply do the exact opposite, and you'll never, ever make a mistake as long as you live. You think you can apply that to the use of technology now? Look around. How about the use of cell phones and mental illness? How about physical health, mental health? How about reading? The herd doesn't read anymore. The crowd doesn't read anymore. The crowd doesn't get outside in nature anymore. The crowd doesn't date their wife anymore. Crowd doesn't drink water anymore. The crowd isn't mentally present anymore. So Uncle Earl has never, ever been more accurate than he is now. Uncle Earl Nightingale, look around and do the exact opposite. And that's what my dad used to do when he went through the 70s of global cooling. He didn't change his business. He didn't insulate his home. He didn't give money, to Jimmy Carter or whoever it was, Pierre Trudeau. He didn't do any of those things. He just ran his company. He just ran his company and raised his children and was king of his family. And then, my dad lived through the Al Gore, all of a sudden I'm a scientist, a pretend scientist. They showed that shit in high schools, in our high schools. The inconvenient truth. Like, you tell me you don't need to think for yourself when you see that up there. A guy, multi-millionaire, billionaire, flying around in a private jet, talking about carbon emissions and the importance of you shrinking your life. If you don't shrink your life, well, the world is going to end, global warming. And then after a few years of real scientists saying, you know what, the environment is, the globe, the earth is always going to be getting warmer, getting cooler, getting warmer, getting cooler. That's part of the process. But to think that global warming is coming on the scale that he was talking about, they said this is just nonsense. So then, of course, it was then no longer framed as global cooling, global change, climate change is where we're at now. Creepy Joe, and they're all in on that, right? Shrink your life, spend more money on taxes, pour trillions, give money to all these countries. You think China gives a shit about global change, global warming? Do you think China gives a shit about global cooling? No. They're just going to run their country, and they're going to run over us soon if we don't smarten up. But just think for yourself and teach your children to think for yourself. It's so, so critical. And it's like, down here at 58 degrees, people are just like, oh, it's so freezing today. And down in Florida, as I've learned, the weather changes every 24 hours. In fact, it changes every 8 hours. If it's not sunny out in the morning, it'll be sunny out in the afternoon. If you get a rainstorm, all of a sudden the sun comes out an hour later. But the one thing that I preach and teach above all else is think for yourself. Not what I think, not what your brother thinks, not what your spouse thinks, not what your grandfather told you to think, not what CNN thinks, not what some tomato can on anti-social media thinks. What the hell do you think? And when we're on this topic, like I tell my mastermind guys, ask them, what the hell do you want? Not like somebody else's goals, not somebody else's mission, not somebody else's values, but what the hell do you want? You're 45, you're 55, you're 65, you're 75 years old. You're 89 years old like my pop. What the hell do you want? And then go get that. And then go get that. What the hell do you want? Think for yourself. Think independently. Does this make sense? And then ask yourself every day, what do I want? What is your passion? What is your obsession? What can you not talk about? What gives you goosebumps? What gives you goosebumps if you're at a cookout or a barbecue? What can you not talk about? If you and I are standing at a barbecue, I'm talking about sports, I'm talking about marketing, I'm talking about business, I'm talking about world building. What would you be talking about? What gives you goosebumps? What can you not talk about? What is it that when time flies by you're doing? And do more of that. Do more of that. It'll make you a better husband, a better father, a better grandfather, and a better entrepreneur. But think for yourself, not what I think, and not what anybody else thinks. Like, my videos are my motivation for videos is to give you a way to think differently. And I don't care how you think differently. My newsletters, an option to be thinking differently. My faxes, my telegrams, they give you an option to think differently. We don't have to follow the 99% off the cliff. We don't have to think like our neighbor, or like our sister, or like our brother, or like our mother. Think for yourself, especially in 2023. Does this make sense? And constantly ask yourself when you're journaling every day, what do I want? What do I want now? I'm 55, I'm 65, I'm 85. What do I want? And then think and behave and make that. Go get that. That's it, Uncle Earl, man. He always serves us well. Just remember, keep Uncle Earl Nightingale in your corner, in your back pocket. When things are happening around us day to day, whether it's balloons in the air, whether it's banks deciding that they're not going to cash your checks, or it's the China virus, or LeBron James is healthy, scratched himself, just remember that shit is all for the 80% bottom. That's for the broke. That's for the unhealthy. That's for the medicated, the sedated. That's for the punch drunk. That is not you. You need to focus on what Uncle Earl said. You need to focus on Uncle Earl's timely advice. If you don't have any examples of what to do, you don't have any role models, you have no clue what to do, look around at what everybody else is doing, the crowd, right? The crowd, the ordinary, the average, the mediocre. What is the quiet desperation doing today in 2023? Everything. What do they do in their relationships? What do they do with their marketing? What do they do with their mental health, their physical health? How do they exercise? What books do they read? How do they manage their cell phone? What are they going to do? What's the quiet desperation going to do with AI? It's supposed to change their life, like the World Wide Web. And just watch what the crowd does with everything and take Uncle Earl's advice. Look around and see what they're doing and do the exact opposite. And then you'll never make another mistake as long as you live. That's my favorite Earl Nightingale quote. Look around what everybody else is doing, the herd, do the exact opposite, and you'll probably never ever make another mistake as long as you live. Today, just today, take the exact opposite road as everybody else. Like the great George Costanza in that Seinfeld episode, if you're a Seinfeld fan, where up is down, down is up, east is west, west is east. And George goes on that tangent where he just does everything the opposite of what his intuition tells him. Because, he's like this loser, right? And he can never win, he can never get the girl, and he's broke and he's unhappy. So he just decides that he's going to do the exact opposite for a day. And it's one of my favorite Seinfeld episodes ever. Just doesn't care, zero neediness, doesn't care, balls to the wall. And all of a sudden, these beautiful women are attracted to him. All of a sudden, he's got the job of his dreams. And all of a sudden, like, winners are looking at him and saying, man, this guy's different. This guy walks to the beat of his own drum. And that's one of my favorite. George Costanza, do the opposite. So if you don't want to listen to Uncle Earl, please listen to the great George Costanza and do the exact opposite. Up is down, down is up. 2 words that changed my life. I've got the swipe file on sale this week and this week only. My $155 million swipe file. It's all my marketing. You maybe don't need this if you're not into marketing and you're happy with your level of wealth and money, that's fine. But I put this thing on sale. You can't normally buy it. And I've sold it for $5,000 and $2,000. I should have sold it for $5,000, but I didn't sell it for $5,000 for enough. That's another story. But this week, for my video subscribers, people that watch my videos, newsletter subscribers, Mastermind members, $997 for the whole enchilada. It is one ugly product. It's all my stuff it's all my marketing, advertising and sales, my phone scripts, my pizza, 9,000 pizza giveaway, my $100 gift certificate, jewelry gift certificate, just on and on and on. And it's all in there. My postcards, my flyers, my newsletters, my book, just on and on. It's how I became the most respected, most talked about, most referred, and admittedly, the most despised and hated man in these particular business. The barbershop business, the hockey franchise business, the window washing business, and the insurance business, the real estate business, it's all in there. The consulting business, wearing the black hat, the villain. So if you want to be the wealthiest, the most referred, the most talked about, and the most hated by your competitors, then get the swipe file. It's badassswipefile.com, or email Leanne. Below I'll put her email as well. If you're like me and you don't shop online, I don't do any of that stuff online. I don't even buy books online. Nope, Mark Andre or Leanne does it. So I'm helpless when it comes to that, on purpose. Helpless on purpose. So badassswipefile.com or the email below, and I'll FedEx it to you. Speaking of Seinfeld, I don't use Newman anymore to deliver my mail. I use a lot of FedEx. I should have shares in that company. But what I do is when you buy the swipe file, when you invest in the swipe file, I will turn around and get Leanne to FedEx it to you. So you'll have it within a few days. badassswipefile.com or Leanne at badassmillionaire.com. That's it. You have 1 week to decide if it's for you. If it's not, that's okay by me as well. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that'll change your life. Remember Uncle Earl. Remember Uncle Earl. Do the exact opposite. You'll never make another mistake in your life. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that'll change yours. Be relentless.